Going live, baby, with Vegas. Catch y'all after the intro. All right, welcome back, everybody. Episode 64. I'm excited for this one. Had a nice talk with Vegas last week, just about everything. The power of social media is getting out of control. Just being able to meet all these people. And it's typically, for anybody who's in the realm or whatever, it's typically every time I don't want to send something or comment something or whatever it is, and I just do it anyways, it becomes the best thing ever. Every single time something comes out of it. And this one, I don't, was it DR22? Well, I can't
Yeah, it was
remember what
DR.
it was.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
DR22's post on suicide and just about speaking on the cowardice of suicide. And I got to touch on my experience. It was the first time I had broadcasted that on like X or Twitter like that in so much detail. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to make sure like I got the message I wanted to get across. And I guess I did, man, because we got to meet. So I'm super grateful.
Yeah, man. My brush with suicide was I've been fortunate on that end because no one's lost their life. That's too close to me. In the army, there's people that go through it that I haven't known or something like that. I've been to a couple funerals because of it, but mine was I was on the edge of it and I held the gun to my head. So it touches me. I'm getting the chills talking just because it touches me in a way that when I see a story like yours, I immediately go into the mind of what the person who didn't commit it, who he
Mm.
affected by committing it. And so yeah, I just wanted to get you on and kind of talk about it, but we'll start soft here so we don't shock too many people. Where you from, man? We'll get into a little background. Where you from? How was life growing up and kind of who you were in high school?
Yeah. Oh, I love that question. Well, in high school, I was in Wake Forest, North Carolina. I had a great high school experience. It's like a suburb of Raleigh, which is the capital up there. I'd grown up all over the country, though. I started off in Puerto Rico, moved to California, Venezuela, Tampa, Missouri. Then I ended up in Raleigh midway through my freshman year. So I got dropped into freshman year midway through the school year. And honestly, bro, the beginning was very tough because where I came from in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which is where I met Chad, um, the person who took his life that I'd mentioned in the post. I had a lot of amazing friends there and an incredible experience in middle school where all my homies were upperclassmen. I was dating girls that were older than me. I was in the orchestra. I was on track, cross country. I was like the number 2 runner in the school. And I moved midway through freshman year and I landed in Raleigh. And the first day that I walk into that class, I'm wearing this like bright yellow Abercrombie sweater that would have been like the shits in Cape Girardeau. I walk into
Yeah.
Raleigh, dude. A dude in the back goes, "Yo, is this dude gay?" And the whole class just like erupts in laughter. I'm like, no, dude, no.
Oh no.
Oh my God, it was the worst start. But
Oh my god.
you know what, man? I made friends and it was cool because it forced me to not just get in with the popular kids like I always tried to gravitate towards in high school. I was homies with like some of the rejects, I guess, and we would eat lunch out on the sidewalk and we wore like cut off jeans and smoked weed and it was just stupid. But uh, it was such a cool experience. I met this guy Blake who really like got me to know myself in a way that I wouldn't had if I had just been with homies that were like this Blake character. He called himself Swift Dragon, and he put a 5 in his name. And like he would like on test and like in school, he would like the teachers would call him Swift. Like he was Swift Dragon. It was insane. And he was my homie freshman year, and I would go over to his place, and we would do crazy shit. We would do like parkour in his backyard and go camping, and his dad would take us out on the canoe on the Falls River there in Raleigh, and we would just canoe down the river, find a spot, camp overnight, eat some grub and a tinfoil, and just like he would play the guitar, and it was just a life that I would not have experienced had I not gotten rejected initially. And that's life, I guess. You know, you kind of sometimes have to like take the punches as they come and try to make the best out of it. And I guess I was able to freshman year, but then the following year we got transferred to a new school sophomore year. So in a matter of 2 years, I'd been at three different high schools. And this new high school that we were going to, we were the sophomores and we were the upperclassmen for the school, meaning there was no juniors or seniors, and so it was only like 600 of us. It was a very unique kind of transition, and again, it like made my high school experience very different because I didn't really grow up with upperclassmen, just guys like constantly just giving me shit, especially in sports. I ran cross country track up until sophomore year, and then I switched over to soccer and lacrosse. But we were always like big men on campus. But our sophomore year, when we did varsity sports, they let us do contact as sophomores versus juniors and seniors. So we were getting slaughtered. Like it was bad.
Oh, man.
But by the time it was senior year, we made regional state semi in the semifinals in the soccer playoffs, and we made it pretty far in lacrosse too. And I think it like took getting beaten down like for 3 years in a row for like finally senior year when we finally had some meat on our bones. We did some damage out there. So yeah, man, I loved high school. I had awesome friends. I met some cool people. I have one best friend that's ridden and out since then. Everyone else has kind of disbanded and done their own things. Everyone's getting married and having kids. And yeah, so I really only keep in contact with one guy from high school. And he was that dude in high school that we went to all the parties together. Like we went on, we took the girls out together. We did everything, man. And I actually got to see him the other week in Houston. So that was nice.
Nice.
But yeah, man, Raleigh, North Carolina was cool.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny because yeah, I moved down to Florida. I grew up in Chicago. I moved down to Florida my senior year of high school, and that transition was like, dude, this is so weird. Nobody knows me because in my town up in Chicago, dude, everybody knew of each other. The sports
Right.
were everybody who played sports, everybody knew each other. And
Yeah.
I wasn't like a mean kid or nothing. I was like a reject. I didn't really fit in with the baseball guys. The
Yeah.
hockey guys kinda sorta, but not really. I wasn't into partying or drugs or anything at the time, so it was harder to fit in with those type of people. And yeah, everybody ended up disbanding, everybody did their own thing, but being a reject, it's interesting that, yeah, you moved, and to compare it to your buddy Blake, that's what happened when I moved to Tennessee for the Army. I had this one guy, my co-host is one, and then this other guy, Brandon Nelson, he's been on the show. And when I was going through it, he opened my mind to everything. Like it was,
That's cool.
I've completely changed just because one person, and it's crazy how things just kind of line up. We were talking that on the phone. They kind of go full circle, and we don't really see what's going on during it, but you
Totally.
know, after a
Well,
year or
that's why I
two, you're like,
love
oh
this, man. Like doing this with you, like I even as I was kind of going back through that, I'd made some connections I hadn't really made before. Just kind of reflecting and saying this stuff out loud helps kind of see those moments, those full circle moments that you were talking about.
yeah, yeah, it's like a review, you get to come back, but it's hard to do, and a lot of people just avoid it just because it's hard to go back into that mind, like, "Who was I back then when I did this?" And you can get dragged down pretty quick. That's what weed started doing to me. It's like I'd smoke and I'd go back into who I was, and then I'd be like, "Oh, man, that's who I was?" Like, dang.
When did you start smoking?
I didn't start until I was getting out of the military. I was an alcoholic, that's when I ended up holding a gun to my head, and then my co-host at the time, he was like, "Look, dude, you're going through it." I ended up getting divorced, so around 23 is when 22 is when I started smoking, and it did change me forever. I was raised in that small town in Chicago, and it's one track mind kind of,
For
you
sure.
get one perspective, and that's about it, and then, everything kinda just blew up when I started smoking. It was like, "Whoa, the world is so much bigger than what I've thought it was," There's so much more to this than what what I thought it was. Um, but yeah, now I've stopped a bit. You know, and I just posted this too. It's hard to stop. It really is because if you were drinking a lot of people go to it from drinking,
Mhm.
and it's like it's an escape, but it's hard to stop because you got to find something you care about, and that's why I like this the podcast is helping people find something that they care about. What did you do when you were a kid when there were no restrictions? You know, when you were just a kid doing whatever you wanted. What were you doing then? And
Dude,
it
I love that question. Can I answer it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, go ahead, man. Yeah.
When you asked that question, it brought me back to something I used to do with Chad, which is this was before YouTube was a big thing. This had to be 2004, 2003. So maybe 2005. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think YouTube really came onto the scene till like '08. It still existed
Mhm.
before then, but it wasn't super popping. People weren't vlogging or really posting videos. But we had like this digital camera and we learned how to like pause recording so that it's like this one editing trick that you can do, like where you have a frame and you pause the recording and then you can like, we would do these things. We would do like things that look like magic tricks where we'd throw up a blanket and we'd pause the video and run out and then the blanket would drop and we weren't there and we were like, oh shit, dude, like
Oh
that
my
was
god.
sick. Yeah, we were like in fifth grade, so we were just bulling, man. But just
Wow,
like
now that was like a huge trend on TikTok like a year ago.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
we were
hilarious.
setting trends back then, dude. Yeah, we were just having fun. Oh man. It makes me think too of a time when, so I lived in Venezuela and I lived in this neighborhood on top of a mountain. It was this uh, gated neighborhood, electric fence around it with two armed guards with assault rifles at the entrance that checks everyone in. Yeah, so it's at the top of this mountain, and I can still picture the entire neighborhood because the neighborhood was like built into a parking garage almost. Like imagine people's driveways are basically the parking garage, and then the homes were like on either side of this huge like six-story
Oh.
parking garage. Yeah, so um, we had a bunch of neighbors there that were around my age, and we had this one mango tree and I was like 6 or 7 years old here. And we would all go to the mango tree, which was like right by the entrance of the complex. And it was this huge tree, and we would just climb it. And then we started like building like pulleys and stuff to go from the bottom to the top to like transport the mangoes. And one of my neighbors had a pet monkey that would like jump around the tree with us, and we'd like
Oh
chase it
my
around. Dude, so fun, man. I
yeah,
miss those
that's
days.
it's like yeah, it as a kid, you don't have all these restrictions. You don't care what anyone thinks. You don't care what society believes in.
Yeah,
You just do whatever the hell you want. And
beautiful, man. Yeah,
yeah, I think kids nowadays there's less of that time to do that because social media and all that. So you get introduced to what everyone thinks earlier. But finding like for me, it came full circle. I quit drinking recently too, and when I went out last weekend or weekend before, something like weekend before, and I went out with my brother and sister to a couple bars down in St. Petersburg, and I didn't drink, but I had so much fun. I was running around smiling, dancing still, and I remember that I went to one party in high school, and that's what I did. I didn't drink, I just had a good time, and everybody at that party were like, "Dude, how many have you had?" And it 0, dude, I'm just having a good time. And it kinda came full circle. It's like, I don't need to drink to have this good time that I used to have. It's
that's cool.
yeah, it's interesting to go full circle like that, but what was like, home life for you? Like, you're bouncing around, why were you bouncing around, and what was it like just being at home?
Yeah, my dad was getting reassigned with his jobs, where he would get assigned to a plant with Procter and Gamble, and he'd have his 4 or 5 year stint. He was good at what he did, and so they would send him to the plants that needed him the most. So that's why we were moving around so much, and he was taking the jobs. Uh, Home life was amazing, dude. I had an incredible home. I'm so grateful for my parents. Yeah, their story, their love story is beautiful. It's something that I hope I can have in my life. And they met at a bar and got married and eloped in Las Vegas 6 months later. So that's where I go by Vegas goes by because It's actually my middle name, Vegas is. So they've been together since. It's been close to I think it's going to be 30 years. Yeah, this March. So my dad was just constantly grinding, doing the thing. My mom was always at home. I had two brothers, two younger brothers, so I was oldest of three, and we grew up playing sports, grew up doing anything. My mom and my dad were really intentional about making sure that anything that we wanted to do as kids, as long as they could do it, they were going to try to find a way to make that happen for us.
Wow.
So it was amazing to grow up in a house like that. And I feel so blessed because of it. And yeah, I mean, I got disciplined as a kid, and my dad was um, hard on me when he needed to be, but I'm grateful for it because he shaped me up and he introduced me to values and honor and
Mhm.
responsibility, just these really core concepts at a really young age. And I've always respected my dad. It wasn't until I dropped out of college where I was really at odds with my dad. I'd always kind of followed the track that he had in mind for me, and so I did end up kind of paving my own way. But we've grown to mutually respect each other because of that, I think. And so it's always been like I think a healthy relationship between father and son. And my mother's always been just a caretaker, and is she gets upset at me because I never ask her for help, because she wants to help, and she's waiting
Yep.
for the moment to be able to give me something, to lend me money, to do anything. She wants to be there for me, and I love her for that, man. And I something about how they raised me, I don't know what exactly, never pushed me to want to like take advantage of that fact, because it's not that we were super wealthy either. I would say we were upper middle class. My dad didn't start making six figures until later on in his career. He was always super diligent and frugal with his money. Um, if you ask my mom, to a fault. But it's all gone into this big retirement, and he's now, in assets and net worth, a millionaire. So he followed this really stringent A-type path, man, where he went to school, graduated top of his class, did collegiate sports, was in a fraternity, got recruited right out of college, to work for a Fortune 50 company, climbed that corporate ladder, and just kept doing it. And now the position he's in today is like he now works for Mars, the candy company, and is one of their top HR executives. Is always in the same rooms as the Mars family, like the private owners of the
Oh, okay.
multi billionaires. It's one of the second wealthiest family in America, and he's like one of their top guys in terms of who keeps the executives in check within the organization. So he climbed that ladder as far as he could, and I'm super proud of him. I don't know how else to describe my family and my home life other than just like super blessed, probably weirdly close. If I don't know how other people would react to how close we are, and I haven't missed a holiday with them. And since I was born, I've always been super intentional about making it on Thanksgiving and Christmas, being there for my mom's birthday.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, man, it's just really solid, and I think that comes from the families they came from too. My grandparents are amazing people as well. So I
Yeah,
come from yeah,
yeah, I come from something similar, yeah, it's but just the close thing is funny when other people see our family. They see us and even going out with my brother and sister, it's like, "Dude, what you guys are all out together? This is awesome." My brother had his
yeah,
whole hockey team there, and they're like, "What? This is cool."
that's sick,
Stuff
man.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then when I joined the military, yeah, my parents never pushed anything too heavy. They did believe a lot in college because my mom didn't go to college, and my dad did, but lower middle class most of our childhood. And when I steered off that path, it took him a little bit, and it took me a little bit to kind of come back together and reconnect on it. But a couple months ago, they sat me down and they said, "Look, dude, I see what you're doing." And my dad said, I respect him so much now. Like it's through the roof, my respect for him, because he said, "Look, dude, I grew up. I wasn't a risk taker. I went to college. He became a teacher. He's the best teacher in this county that we live in. Best teacher that was up in Chicago. He does what he does, and he's the best at it. But
Yeah.
they strived for college, and I ended up going in the military. My dad was, yeah, go ahead, do it. But missing those times home at the with the family on the holidays and stuff like that. That was it was tough because yeah, we were the same thing, kind of that close knit family who always grew up in the same house. We had 7 people, one house, um, 3 bedrooms. I shared a room with my 2 brothers. My
Yeah.
sister got her own room, that type of stuff. Like sister didn't have anyone to play with, so I'm playing Bratz and Polly Pockets and all that fun stuff with her. Like it's like you said, dude, it's very I'm very blessed for being raised that way, and even now, dude, I'm living at my parents. They have my back. I went through the transition of the army and it was brutal, absolutely brutal. We had our spurt and I had to move out. Now I'm back because they're just, I'm just lucky to have them. But it's interesting to me, there's a lot of people, it's like 40% of kids nowadays are being born into single parent homes, single mother homes.
Yeah.
But the mental health issues or what we go through mentally is still very similar. We still all try to find who we are. We still run into some issues. And not that every issue can be resolved the same, but we still all have to learn how to kind of problem solve and figure out who we are
Totally.
and that journey to figure out who we are. Where where did that start for you? Because mine was pretty late. I didn't start figuring out who I am, who I want to become till 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Did that it sounded like you were early into, morals, values, all that. Did that start back then or
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't really start to Chad taking his own life was a shell shock for me because up until that point, which I was 16, 17, I'd lived just a very cookie cutter, just like I hadn't even had any major familial deaths. And so it was my first death, really. And because it was so personal and was someone that I had like embodied in some ways, like he was very outgoing, super funny, always talking to people, and uh, a risk taker, constantly up for adventure. I mean, we would steal his mom's car and do donuts in the driveway. Like this dude was nuts. And when he killed himself, you have to like it forces you into the state as someone who's close to someone who does that. It forces you into a state of like, am I okay? Like,
Yeah.
and who am I? Now that I've lost like a piece of me, and so I think I was starting to ask like existential questions at a pretty young age because of that, but it was very private. And I don't think it really started to manifest until I met another group of guys when I was 18, 19 years old. Um, it's another big part of my story is meeting these other guys. Um, I kind of go back and forth on naming names, so I'll try to keep this anonymous, just because we ended in bad blood, but I've got lots of love for these guys, but it didn't end the way that we would really have wanted it to. So I don't know if I'm in the spot to be talking, publicly about their names specifically, because I would like to talk about it openly, and which would require me to really throw some shade because of the way, that the experience that I had and the way that I was treated.
Yeah.
Um, so I won't name names, but I met a group of guys when I was 19, that we all really got into self development at a young age. And we really started to uh, try to determine what our place in the world really was. And this guy who I was working with, we'll just call him V, he was convinced that he was put on this planet to save it, essentially, and to bring in the next era of technology to usher in like a whole new era to humanity. He wanted to save humanity from the bad guys, the Illuminati, however you want to call it, the dark shadow that we feel like is pulling the strings to the world and society. And he felt like it had been taken over by bad people, and that it would take someone like him to go in, shake things up, and save the world from these bad people. He was convinced that that's why he was put on this planet, and that if we followed him, that we would not only be heroes in helping save the planet from the cabal that controls everything, but that we would also gain access to like unlimited riches, and we would be, wealthy beyond our imagination. And at 19, he starts talking about how we were going to do that. He had a plan. And, I was in school at the time, and his best friend was my roommate. And so it started off just us going to his place, smoking, talking. Me and him would get into arguments all the time because he just had these concepts that I could not agree with. Like, up until that point, if you had told me that aliens were a confirmed fact, and that, you know, that the government hides things from us, I would have been like, no, like, why would the government ever lie to us? I remember saying that to him. And so he was like bringing up conspiracies and these concepts that were like blowing my mind. And like, even human history, the way that he viewed human history started to make sense to me. And so at a pretty impressionable age, and my personality type also invited it too, I really latched onto this guy, and I held on to every word he said. And a lot of it was good. A lot of it was self-serving, and it developed into something negative over time. But at the time, we would, once a week, every Sunday, we would get together, like, and it was a group of 12 of us at one point, and we would just kind of sit around a circle, and we would talk about our weeks, and we would rank how we felt, how our work was, how we were physically, and we would talk about it as a group to each other. And we were really trying to build like this group of like young men that got good at business with the intention of like making the world a better place. And that was truly what my initial intent was too. And that's the whole reason why I got so knee deep into it. And yeah, man. So as a part of that process, I had to ask myself a lot of questions, and I created this. We had this concept called character creation, and this is a real concept that business professionals, super athletes use to perform at a high level in their respective fields. But at the time, this was something that we were using to become the men that we knew we weren't yet, because we were saying all these things and we had all these beliefs, and but we needed to become the characters that could actually carry out this plan that we had. And the way that we were going to do that was through this concept called character creation, where we would basically describe every element of who this person is, and then start emulating that by the way that we dress, by the way that we talk, by the way that we act, by the way that we move, and just becoming this person by envisioning it first, and essentially becoming a character when you were out in the field. And so mine became the commander. And so like this, and I have a big military background in my family, so I think I've always had this like affinity to discipline, and I've always had a huge amount of respect for veterans in the military. And so this character that I'd created, this guy, that became who I was in a lot of ways. And it was a really interesting experience, man. It was like 19 through 27. I basically was like in this world where I was around somebody that truly believed that they were something other than almost human, that they were just something else.
Mhm.
Um, and it turned really unhealthy towards the end, unfortunately. And, it got to his head. And I do believe he has a level of the way that he would talk, and the way that he would present information was extremely captivating. It's like those stories that you watch on HBO or whatever about the cults and the guys that like really like they get a group of people together and you're just like, how the fuck are these people like so like enamored by this person, you know? And
Yeah,
you know, looking back, I asked myself the same question, but at the time, you know, I was just at a really impressionable age. I think part of it was what I had experienced when I was 16, 17, losing my best friend. I wanted something, you know, I grew to fear abandonment, and I grew to fear losing friends. And it hurt me more than what I gave it credit for. A lot of the feelings that I initially had when I first found out about Chad was um, shock, and I didn't, you know, there wasn't tears, there wasn't like grief. It was just like almost like, you know, like
yeah,
everything got flushed out, dude. And I was just kind of like going through the motions. And you know, I didn't break until I saw him on the machine in the hospital room, you know, with the ventilator in his chest. Basically, he wouldn't be breathing if it wasn't for the machine. So he was
right.
moving extremely irregularly. There's a freaking tube going down his mouth, and you don't know whether or not he can hear you. You know, they basically have pronounced him brain dead at this point. There's still some hope that he might be able to come back, but it's definitely not going to be with the same functions. And so it was, I knew probably my last moment with him. And, you know, there was obviously sadness, but a big part of me was just pissed. I was just super mad because I didn't get to talk to him. And I saw what it did to his mom and to his sister and to his girlfriend at the time, and he had a group of 40 people in the waiting room, you know, waiting to see if he was gonna be okay. And it's just like, you know, you see that and it's just like, how could you overlook all this love
Yeah,
that's like it's just like totally surrounding you. And he knew it too. He knew he was loved. And that's why I think it makes me so mad is because his mom was a sweetheart, dude. Like, God, man. And she is such a she still is. And his mom and his sister, you know, like his dad was a piece of shit, unfortunately, and they got into fistfights, and he was an alcoholic and abusive, but they divorced at an early age. So despite them being separated, he still wanted a relationship with his dad, and his dad had better relationships with his stepsons. And I think that had a deeper, more impactful hurt on him than I ever realized. And
uh,
it's not something he ever openly talked about. And it wasn't until me growing up and kind of looking at the situation that I realized like that, you know, that's probably a big part of it. He got sent to boarding school as well. And, you know, is something where he was living at this place where people go to get fixed. They also sent him to a wilderness camp. One of those things where you live out in wilderness for weeks and you like have to drink your own piss out there, and you're basically have you heard of these places?
no,
They're
I've
like,
heard of the drinking your own piss, but I didn't know there was, like, retreat type deals for it.
yeah, it's somewhere where they send troubled children to go get fixed, basically. And there's
Hmm,
documentaries of this stuff now. But yeah, man, you know, it was tough, and I think that experience led me to it put me in a vulnerable state. And so, you know, as a part of this podcast, and since we're talking to people that have either come into contact with this or are curious about it or have experienced it themselves, you can't discredit how vulnerable, like as someone that you're around, someone that does that to themselves, how vulnerable you are in that state, because it is like it is an attack. It feels like an aggressive, because you're aggressively taking something out of somebody's life.
mhm.
You know, and it is such a weird sensation because you're getting attacked by someone that you love, but the way that they attacked you is by hurting themselves. So it's like a mind fuck.
Yeah,
Um,
I ran into it, recently, man, and it was like you, it was anger, and it's hard to deal with it that way because when someone doesn't reach out to you and they know you're there, they still don't reach out to you, and then something happens. It was like for me, it was like, "Man, you can talk to me. What it upset me. I was very upset, not over him doing that, over him not telling me before he did something like that, you know? Um, I and like you said, being so vulnerable about it, it was new to me because I put myself in the situation I was in, and I knew I had so many people I loved and that loved me. But for me, dude, it was the ninth call is who picked up.
Yeah.
The ninth call, my little brother finally picked up the phone, and when that happens, everything's at the extreme. I went through 8 people, none of them are answering me. What? They don't love me anymore? What the hell's going on? What the hell's going on? And finally someone picks up, that's what changes it, but you don't realize I don't think you realize people love you in that way until something like that happens. Like, for me, I I have close family. It sounds like me and Chad were similar. I'm running around smiling all the time. Um, and for me, it was hard for me to break that smile and finally tell someone, "Look, dude, I can't smile anymore." Because I need to tell someone so that they know, because when I go into work the next day and I'm not smiling, this is exactly what happened. I go into work the next day, I'm not smiling. Everyone's asking me, "What's wrong? You're not
Yeah.
smiling. What's going on?"
Right.
And to speak on the
Mm.
vulnerability part, people this is I talk about this a lot because that's what the world needs more is vulnerability. When I mean, people are getting scammed all day online because that person just simply isn't as vulnerable. The person selling whatever course isn't vulnerable to his audience, whatever it may be. But your audience or your friend or your family, whoever, is only going to be as vulnerable as you are to them.
Mm.
The only way someone knows they could talk about this is if I brought it up. You know, like if I go and that's why I'm so open and deep with my conversations. I don't have many surface level conversations of how are you, where do you work, what's all that like. It it's typically my brother had we were hanging out with one of these girls he was hanging out with, and he had to take a shower. So me and her are just talking. And I told her this whole story. I just met her. She just met my brother. And I told her everything. What I went through, the army, everything, how my mind works, everything. Because no one talks about it. No one
Yeah.
that's why I have the podcast. No one comes up and just talks about it after something like this happens. It's hard to talk about. It's a deep, dark conversation. And I applaud you for, people use brave all the time. They're brave, they're brave. You're being brave to dig this deep into your soul, and to me, that's I can't shit on anyone doing something like that, because to me, that's the best thing you could do for other people, is being that type of vulnerable. You know, this is the most we had ever anybody listen live. We have 10 people listening live. Those 10 people, one of them, just one of them could be going something through something similar or have gone through something similar, and now we can make that change in the opposite direction. Because we had I think episode 38, we had a suicide grief expert on, and she lost her son at a young age.
Episode 40.
Episode 40, Kathleen. I'm glad you know that. That's awesome, man. She lost her son at a young age, and she said it's about 130 people that are affected by a suicide. And that number can change so easily if we're open to talking about it, and it will change in the opposite direction. We'll start stopping them. Each attempted suicide, or each on the bridge of suicide, could change so many other people, more than 130, because I'm still here able to talk about it. And then the people around me are able to talk about it. And you going through that and having to see that and see him on the table or on the bed, you had to change your life changed completely. And now you're in this type of position. And when you're going through that suicidal ideation, that's not what you're thinking about. And it's hard to think about stuff like that. It's hard to
Yeah.
go in that deep. So
My brother recently, not recently, this was 2016, so 8 years ago. He had just gotten admitted to FSU, and I hadn't really talked to him in a little while, but I got a call from him, and he was distraught. And he told me it was the middle of the night. It was like 1 a.m. And he's like, I'm in the woods, and um, I'm alone, and I just keep thinking about killing myself. And I was like, dude, just stop what you're doing. Don't move. What's wrong? And he unloads, and I'm like, and he's just talking about how he doesn't want to be in school, and he just feels like he doesn't belong there, but he doesn't want to disappoint my parents, and that they're paying for it, and shame. I'm like, yo, forget all that. I'm gonna call mom and dad, and I'm gonna let them know that we talked, and I'm gonna let them know that you're dropping out of school. You're gonna call them in the morning. You're gonna let them know too, and you're packing up all your shit, and you're driving to me, and you come live with me for the next like however long.
Mhm.
So that's what we did. He came out, and we had a spot for him with the guys that I was living with, and at the time it was a really positive environment for him, I think, because he was surrounded by a group of guys that would just listen to him, dude, just like you said, and he had really weird thoughts, and he had been smoking way too much weed, I think, and I think there was a lot more. There's a lot that goes into what he experienced at the time, but what was important to him was that he could just have a group of guys that would just listen to him, and he didn't feel ashamed, and we wouldn't judge him when he was saying the things that he had to say, and he started creating like beats and making art, and just like exploring that part of himself, and felt
Mhm.
freedom to be himself, and to be deep, and to be weird, and almost like permission, and he's found his way, man. He's a cook now, and now he's going back to school to be a masseuse, and he still has his moments, but he's come such a tremendous way from where he was, and it felt like it felt like I got the opportunity to do with him what I never got to do with Chad, which is just like
Yeah.
be like, dude, fucking stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, dude, those calls, man, it's incredible. And it does tear me up sometimes, man. I did have a missed call from Chad the night before he killed himself, so I don't know what that conversation would have been like. I don't know if I was one of the people that didn't answer, and that's why. I don't know, and I try not to
Yeah.
beat myself up too much about it, because there's nothing I can do. But it makes you think how precious life is, and when someone calls you, just pick up. Like,
Yeah.
unless you're
Yeah.
not, you're not too busy for a loved one, man, and like, and mom and dad shouldn't have to wait. When they call, like, your brothers shouldn't have to, like, imagine had I not picked up at 1 a.m. when my brother called, and I'm just like, oh, what the fuck? Why is he calling? And I just let
Yeah.
it go, and I find out the next morning that he fucking killed himself.
Yeah.
Never again, dude. I will never let that happen again. So
Yeah.
I pick up my phone calls, man, and it's just like one of those things that I experienced firsthand, that you never know what someone's going through. It's usually the people that you don't think it's happening to. It's usually them. You're not a psychologist. You're not going to pick up on the signs before it happens. Like, nobody fucking does,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, that's what, was messing with my brain when I was going through all this, because I would look at Mac Miller was one I'd look at, and that's he passed a couple years before, and if you see any pictures of him, the dude's smiling everywhere. He's having a good time everywhere, and that messed with my head a lot, because I saw a lot of myself in that, and I saw myself going down that path, and it kinda shook me because, yeah, this guy's happy all the time. I would have never guessed, and that's typically what happens. And I think it's interesting to bring up your brother like that and talk about how he had this pressure from his parents. And I mean, that's one of the last thing a parent wants to do, is pressure you that bad into into something like that. And when I told my parents about everything I was going through, all that stuff, the I don't- you could feel my mom, like, upset with herself, and I didn't want to have to tell her that. She treated me so well my whole life, my dad too, and to spill this on them and tell them, "Look, you guys you guys aren't letting me do what I want." I feel a lot of pressure coming from you guys, and I don't wanna do what you guys want me to do, and we both kinda have to live with that. To say no to your parents like that, especially, 16, 17, that doesn't happen too much, especially you grow up in a nice household. I never said no to my parents. I gotta take out the trash, I'm taking out the trash.
Yeah,
I can I'll never say no, and to
yeah,
make that transition into being 23 and finally coming home and telling them, "No, no, I'm
yeah.
not doing that."
That's a big
It's
moment. Yeah.
yeah, but I do wanna ask, man, Kevin, the co-host, he talks about this a little bit. Being the guy that people go to like that, being the
Mm.
guy your brother calls, being the guy that's bearing other people's burdens like that. How do you deal with that? Do you notice the toll it takes on you? Even going back to picking up the phone. When I see my phone, I do the same thing. It's I would say 90% of veterans do the same thing. They see their veteran buddy calling, it's like I have to get this right
Yeah.
now. You know, how is that for you?
That's a cool question. I disassociate from my feelings a lot. I'm probably a little too good at it at this point. Because I don't feel my feelings too deeply, and I let other people's feelings roll off me to
Why
where
why do you feel why do you think that you don't f or yeah, why do you think that you don't feel them deeply like that?
just because I know what it feels like to feel deeply. It's not that I'm
Okay.
incapable of it. It's just that I don't
Yeah.
often. Yeah. And so a lot of it has to do with what I experienced with V, that guy I was speaking to
Mhm.
about earlier, because he would go on these um like tyrant escapades where he would just be a total fucking asshole. And not necessarily pointed at me, but when something would go wrong.
Your mic cut out. Okay. Hope y'all are enjoying the show. We'll go with our sponsor here real quick, give them some time to get back. Today's episode is sponsored by Honor Guard Coffee. Owner is Steven. He was on episode 57 with us, so go check him out if you'd like. Know what you're thinking? Another coffee brand, and I'm here to tell you to stop thinking that. This coffee brand was made to support veterans, and we can't pass that up. With 25% of the proceeds going towards veterans, the mission of Honor Guard Coffee is simple. Pair each veteran with a service dog. On top of that, each blend is named after a service animal that actually served, including their breakfast blend, Cairo, the Belgian Malinois, there on the Bin Laden raid. Think of Black Rifle Coffee Company, but with more help towards veterans, a better taste, and dogs. We all love dogs, so you gotta love this company. Look, I'm just a regular coffee guy typically, drinking the same old garbage from Walmart. And let me tell you, if you're that guy, give this one try. Just one try, and you'll never want to go back to Walmart again to get that garbage coffee. Like I said, the owner, Steven, was on our show, episode 57. He's an ex-Marine, struggled through his fair share of mental health, and is just looking to make a change. With us supporting him and him supporting us, we couldn't be more proud to align our mission with his and have him as our first sponsor. Thank you, Honor Guard Coffee. The link is in the description below if you'd like to try some. Now back to the podcast. All
All
right,
right,
we're back.
testing, testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, good. Let's get back to tyrants, baby.
So, dude, he would go crazy, man, and it would be like a lot, because something would go wrong in the business, and he's just like cursing these people's lives, and then also telling us how how what we need to do to fix it, and he'd be like, this fucking bitch, blah blah blah, and he's Italian, he's loudmouth. And sometimes it would be directed at me, and it would be like, Vegas, you didn't fucking double check this, and I always tell you double check shit, and like talking to me like I'm a dog, and
Mhm.
I had to like learn to not react to when I'm getting screamed at like that by someone who's my friend, by the way. It's different when it's like your commanding officer and it's someone that you respect and you're just
Yeah.
getting screamed at. I don't give a fuck, but when it's from someone where I see you as an equal and you're talking to me like that, and you're my age, and it's like, every bit of me want to say, fuck you, I'm done with this. But I like depended on the opportunity I had with him. So I would internalize that and I would just swallow it, dude. And I'd just be like, okay, whatever. And it would make me mad. But I got better and better and better, especially with my experience with Chad too, where my immediate reaction was to internalize the feelings. It was my defense mechanism. So I don't think it's healthy. And I, where I do the healthy bit of it is that I do journal, and I do write. I spill my feelings in my journal, and sometimes my girlfriend allows me my soliloquies where I'm just ranting and I just get it all out of my system. Sometimes she has to be my ear for that, but I don't hold on to it as much as I used to, especially in the last year since I left those the guys that I was working with, and I've been a lot more open about my feelings. I've been a lot more open about sharing my feelings with God and just taking a beat and praying, and just closing my eyes and you know saying sorry, humbling myself, um, being grateful, feeling the gratitude. Just like I have breath, I have life, I have legs, I've
Mhm.
got a roof, I've got a fucking phone. I just start,
Yeah.
just stacking the gratitude, and it gets me into a really healthy state. And I got this book called my girlfriend got it from, it's called the 5 Minute Journal. It's nice, dude. It asks you to do three things you're grateful for, three things that would make today great, a daily affirmation for the mornings, and then at night you do the highlights of the day and what did I learn. So I think what keeps me even keel is that I'm constantly checking in with myself and I'm checking in with
Mhm.
God. And I'm not just letting life happen to me constantly. I'm taking moments where I meditate a little bit, not a tremendous amount. I meditate maybe total 5-10 minutes a day. I pray 2-3 times a day. I journal maybe once or twice a week. It's nothing crazy, but it's enough for me to just feel like I'm in control and that I'm not being washed away by other people's feelings and what other people
Yeah.
need from me and other people's expectations. I'm really clear on my boundaries at this point, which has helped me um, really establish just like my playing field and what I'll allow to come into my space. So that when extreme instances do happen like that, I'm in a mind state to be able to respond well to it. I think that's a big part of why people come to me, is because when they do, they get something out of it. They get some sauce, and it's I take some pride in it, but I don't. I feel like maybe I just have a gift of listening too, because I'll ask questions and I'll provide clarity on things that may seem hazy. And um, in order for me to show up like that consistently for the people in my life, I have to be good. I have to be
Yeah.
really solid. I have to be feeling good, because imagine if someone calls me and I'm feeling like shit, and they need me in that moment. How am I going to be able to help them? How am I going to be able to serve them in that moment?
Yeah, your brother calls at 1 a.m. and you're drunk.
Yeah, exactly.
What
And I'm
happens?
drunk
Yeah.
because I hate my life,
Yeah.
and it's like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So it, I try not to put too much pressure on myself either. I don't necessarily feel a tremendous amount of pressure, but I do see myself as, and I think my family's always kind of see me as the eldest son and someone that's just should have their shit together. And I take pride in that. I'm okay with taking that role and owning that and being that guy. So honestly, to answer your question, it doesn't feel as much of a burden as it might actually be. I just take it day by day by taking care of myself, and so that I can be available for those people. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I roll with the punches, you know.
Yeah, I want to ask that journal thing. I'm gonna end up getting one because right now I'm just journaling and composition notebooks and stuff. I got like 8 of these things around just about everything I need to do. I got a church one, a business
Hell yeah,
one, now I got a podcast one. It's
go.
a movie one for when I watch movies, I analyze it. It's all over the place, but
Oh, we should talk some movies a little later on.
all right, yeah, yeah, no, I got a good one I gotta, um, check out because yeah, I got a story behind that, we'll get into that. But when you're journaling, if you don't mind going into it, I advocate for it a lot. That's what changed a lot about me is when I'm journaling, it's like that phone call, it's like you calling yourself, and
Yeah,
you
that's
calling
cool.
yourself, checking in, saying, "What's going on, dude?" What do you how does your journal look like? Like, when you're just journaling, what does it kinda look like when you're, yeah, just writing stuff down?
Recently it's been essays. Um,
Yeah, I just switched to that too. I did bullet points for a bit, and I started
yeah,
switching to, like, a essay type deal, yeah.
yeah. So now, like, I'll kind of like I wrote an essay on being social or finding the moment,
Yeah.
consistency, um, distractions. So I'm just speaking on things, I guess, that are coming up, and I also write poems sometimes.
Wow, nice.
Which, yeah, dude, that helps.
Yeah, get your
Um,
mind going for sure.
yeah, like the other day I did a few poems. So yeah, it really varies a lot. There
Are you
was this,
comfortable saying one of them poems?
yeah, sure. Let me see.
Let's do it.
My handwriting is rough, so I'm gonna try. Uh, the talk, the bustle. Is it truth or is it just part of the hustle? Who are we really? Who are we really talking to anyway? What is it that we really want to say? Can I have your attention if I may? Adieu, adieu, no, hello, hello. Could it be that we're all in disarray? A world in free fall, watch out below. My brothers, my sisters, take my hand. All I want is to feel you. Are we really just specks of sand? The spells we cast, could it be that we will be free at last? An answer for each other. Awareness, I see you, brother. Unconditional love, I love my mother. What to say, what to say? The body rushes, can you see my pain? Oh wait, what is it what is it that I really want to say? Ahem. Hello, will you be my friend?
Dude, that's incredible. You just I got chills, that's incredible. That might be our new intro or something. That was incredible, holy cow.
Yeah, I don't know. So
Wow.
sometimes, yeah, that just comes out, I guess. Um,
Yeah,
so I I don't I'm not too strict on myself with that. It's whatever I'm feeling.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. That's kinda how I go. I mean, I'll kinda show just for the people watching. Let's see what we got here. This is this is how it used to be for all those watching, where it's just bullet points, kind
You're
of a
like a
mess.
mad scientist, Trevor.
Yeah, yeah, my day next day on the side, and then, I got into this idea, Marcus Aurelius, his book, Meditations, it's just one of the greatest books out there, um,
True.
it's just his journals, and I got into this idea that at some point in my life, I'd like to take these journals and make it into some type of book.
Love
So
it.
that's kinda my perspective what I'm writing now as it turns into an entry into a little book that I could,
That's awesome, man. And you're touching on something that I really believe in for attitude on life is you've got to make yourself the main character of your own story. Um, you're not supporting cast. You're not in somebody else's life. It
Mhm,
truly is your story, and everyone has the ability to do that for themselves. And like everything we see around us was created by someone, and
everything that we know was found out by someone. Everything that we've seen, it's like, except for
Yeah.
nature, everything was created by another person that just considered themselves the main character in their own story, and they made something. They created something. They built something. They impacted people. And I truly believe, and maybe it's the optimist in me, but I truly believe that everyone is capable of something, like a gift. Everyone has a
Mhm.
gift. And the gift might be big or small. It may make you famous. It may not. But none of that, the notoriety of the gift, like, it doesn't matter. And we live in a world where it's like the only thing that's prioritized is like, will this gift be received? Will this gift produce money? Will this gift, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like, you just create, and I, I say that I'm talking to myself too, because I want to create more on social, and I want to share more, and I want to put myself out there more. I got a full-time job, so and I work like 10-12 hour days, so it's not something that I have a tremendous amount of time for, but still, like, I know I have something to say, and everyone has a gift, and it's like, when I look at my life, I try to look at it as if they're chapters in a book. And
Mhm.
I try to intentionally close chapters in my book. And
Ah,
that's a big thing, dude, because we get stuck on chapters of like, oh, this is the
yeah.
chapter, me being this guy. But if you
No,
can,
that's a
like,
lot in the veteran community. You get out and you still think you're in.
exactly,
You don't ever close that chapter.
and that's just who you are until the end.
Mhm.
And, the veterans who are able to close the chapter end up becoming a lot there. I mean, there's so many successful, incredibly successful veterans that were able to close the chapters on their life, and because they were veterans, they were able to reach that level of success. So it's no
Mhm.
longer a debilitating factor, it's like an empowering one, something that, like, sets the foundation for them to really kick ass.
Yeah.
um, but it's only available to those who are willing to close the chapter of their lives on that. And the more that you see yourself as a character in a story, and the main character, most importantly, uh, I feel like the more intentional that you'll become about your actions and the way that you approach people and the conversations that you have. Like what you were saying, like these who would read a book of a person that just talks about the weather and like these
Yeah.
empty platitudes and stuff? Like, who cares? I only want to read the book of the guy that has the that makes people think, and like. And then she looked at me with like big eyes after I told her about my experience with suicide. It's like, that's a story, man. You're like creating, like, that's cool to me. That I'm attracted to those types of people, because I feel like the more I surround myself with main character types, the more I can become my own main character in my story, um, yeah, and it's humility is important, and being humble. And anyone that you would talk to that knows me personally would tell you that I'm humble, probably to a fault. It's funny, anyone who says they're humble, but I know that's what people would say about me, just because of the way I act. But the way that I am, truly, I'm not humble. Like, inside, like the way I think about myself, I'm not humble. Like, I'm thinking I'm the best.
Yeah.
I'm
And you
trying
have
to
to.
be. Yeah, because if you don't think you're the best, who the hell is gonna think you're the best? No one
Yeah.
else. No one's gonna put themselves down before they bring you. I mean, some people will, but you got to be. It's like, you got to believe in yourself first. No
Yeah.
one's gonna believe in you until you believe in yourself first, and you got to believe in yourself, like a crazy person. Like, it has to be unrealistic a little bit. And because at what point is someone getting famous or achieving massive success realistic? When, like, you have to either come from money or come from a family where it's already been done. But a lot of the people that we look up to and have done the things that we look up to them for the things that they've done, before they got there, in a lot of cases, they didn't know what they were doing. They just believed in themselves. They were actually like losers, and they, you know, were failing a lot and they were making a ton of mistakes, and they just have this crazy belief that eventually that they're going to get it. And sometimes people are bad at what they do for decades and then you know, so everyone's journey is different. I do believe that you can shorten the time between who you are now and the person that you want to be through doing certain things. Like I think, yes, we have a lot of time in life, but I think also time is super precious, and that we should act as if tomorrow's the last every day, to really appreciate the intensity of life that we have every day. You know, when I really sit down and I think about it, it always just like, I almost feel like I'm tripping on shrooms. I'll get into these meditative states where I really start to think about like this moment and everything that's led up to this moment. And like I think about my ancestors and the battles that they fought and the wars that they were in, and the near death experiences that they had, and like just all of this energy just leading up into who I am right now in this moment as I'm talking to you on the phone. You know, it's like I'm living my ancestors' legacy, and I'm doing that every waking moment that I'm alive. And it's every moment that I'm not like grasping that, it's an insult to how much sacrifice and work was put into getting me into this position. You know, I've got
Mm-hmm.
thousands and thousands of ancestors that and lineage that has led up to this and this privilege and like this life that I live in Miami. And the more that I like let breathe that in and like let that be a part of who I am, it helps me step into every moment with a ton of energy and a ton of like, I'm ready to do this, you know. And I think it starts with, you know, being the character in your story, like you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, that the realization of every day could be the best and or my last type deal. It took me a while to get there. Um, and the only connecting thing I have to get there was God. And every night now, and I've told my mom this too, I used to have a fear of death, whether me, my family, my friends. I don't know why. I maybe it's the military. I'm in a situation where anyone could die at any moment. Um, but I started talking to God every day at night and saying, "Look, like, this day was awesome. Thank you for this day. I've lived it the best I could, and if you bless me with another one, I'll do the same. If you don't, I look forward to meeting you. I look forward to meeting my grandma up there, you know, and that changed everything for me.
That's
That
beautiful.
happened like a month ago. Yeah, and
Yeah.
everything started to change. I started doing what I wanted to do. I started, you know, for me, I'm living at my parents'. Maybe someone listening is, and I would hang out with my parents, and I TikTok this too. I would hang out with my family every chance I could because in the military I couldn't. I have a collage of pictures, them at Disneyland, my brother's hockey games, all of them hanging out together, and I'm the missing piece. I'm not in those pictures.
Mm.
And that ate at me. So now I've spent all my time with my family. And I still don't know who I am because I'm still spending all my time with my family.
Mm.
And this telling God this every night is what finally got me to peel away a little bit. Say, yes, I'm still grateful I have my family. I'm grateful I have the opportunity to hang out with them or go. Yesterday I went to the beach with my parents. Grateful to have that opportunity. However, I still need me time. And they're not going anywhere. If they do go somewhere, I've learned so much from them already. And I'm still grateful for them in my life. And that's God and gratitude. I just thought of that off the rip when I made title for this. It's funny that that's what I'm about to say. God and then gratitude, putting them together. Um, you just start thanking for everything. You know, I'm thankful for the podcast. I'm thankful to have the mind to be able to do the podcast and find people that are similar like me, have a story to tell, stuff like that. And what people will start seeing, that's why I liked doing this podcast, and the platform is open platform and tell your story, because so many people aren't telling their stories. They don't journal. They don't even think about it until they come on here and they're like, "Oh yeah, you know, when I was in high school, this is what happened." And then it led me to this. Like you're saying, you close the circuits. And it's just so important. And the book idea didn't come to me a while ago. That was more recent, but being the main character, like you're saying, makes it so much more fun.
Yeah,
When
it's so much
when
more fun.
Yeah, it's so much more fun. You're writing your story, you're writing your life, and when I go to people anywhere I'm at and I smile at them at the gym and say, "What's up?" I'm like, "Okay, that's my character. That's what I'm here to do." Like, I've been told by everybody. This is
Yeah,
what I'm here to do, smile and bring some light into somebody's situation. And then when you do that and you see that as your main character, you feel so much better about it. Everybody has, like you said, this little gift, and when you find out that gift, you'll find it out if you start journaling. That's what I started realizing is, oh, every day I'm meeting somebody and we're smiling, talking deep. All right, that's my main character. And now every time that happens, it's like, oh, look at this. I'm doing what I'm here to do. And it's you get to check the block for the day. It's moving up from someone who's depressed, can't move out of their bed. That's what you gotta do.
yeah,
You gotta move the needle a little bit each day. For me, I wasn't brushing my teeth. I started brushing my teeth. Wasn't showering, started showering. Wasn't going to the gym as I used to all the time. Started going to the gym every day. And it's slowly you start building these little you start moving the needle a little more, little more, little more. And it's one step at a time. Like you're saying,
yeah,
these these veterans who now have made Jocko Willink made a huge name for himself. He didn't just roll out of bed one day and boom, made a name of himself. He went on podcasts. He started talking to himself in the mirror. He started analyzing everything and started figuring out what to do right, closing chapters, opening new ones. And I think people just don't give themselves enough credit is what it is. And there's not enough people. Jordan Peterson says this too. There's not enough men that are hearing words of encouragement.
mhm,
There's not too many people saying, "I'm proud of you." I'm proud of you, Vegas, dude. You made it here, and who you are, who you've become, is incredible to me. I'm proud to have met you, proud to see your journey, and we just don't hear that a lot. It's just
yeah,
not. It's not that you're not living in this encouraging environment. You're getting kind of stepped over, and until you start writing your main character story, that's when you start, patting yourself on the back. Um,
yeah, man.
I do want to ask though, if you don't have anything to add, you talked about your girlfriend, and I don't know kind of what side of Twitter you're on. You follow DR22, so you're on the similar side of mine. But red pill, if you get red pill, you don't tell your girlfriend anything, to keep the conversations between you and your boys, all that type of stuff. How is she supporting you? You said that multiple times. How is that relationship? What do you kind of when you're going through it? And people are going to see online, don't tell your wife anything because she'll just use you and take advantage or whatever. See that as vulnerable. How has that helped the relationship? How has that brought her to support you?
That's a cool question. Um, it's funny because I did slip into that world for a little bit before I met my girlfriend with Royo and his book. The name of it is slipping my mind. Not that I necessarily even want to broadcast it anyway, because I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Um, but you know, yeah. So I came across some pretty red pillish stuff when I was like in my mid 20s, and at that point, I had been cheated on multiple times. I had been in a relationship with a girl that wanted to be an open relationship, and so we were with other people while we were together. And so, I got to kind of stress test some of these concepts with my past in my past relationship. And what I've found, and maybe I just got lucky, but the red pill doesn't believe in someone who's like a soulmate, or somebody that you can connect with not only on a physical level but in an emotional, and it sometimes feels like on a spiritual level as well. um, because of the experience that I've had with my parents and seeing what they've gone through, and that it is possible. And my grandparents' parents also had 50-year plus marriages. So I've just been surrounded by successful relationships. And so I've seen firsthand what actually works. So I think a big part of this is, who do you listen to? That's a key question in life is, who are you listening to? Because you should really just listen to the people that have what you want or have been where you've been. So
Yep.
examine the lives of these people and first ask yourself, is that what you want? Because the concepts that I might and the ideas that I might have about relationships are different than the ones that somebody like Andrew Tate is going to have in his relationships. But Andrew Tate has a daughter with a nameless mother that we don't know. We know that he has a daughter, but we don't know who the mother is. He probably has a concubine of multiple women that he gets to run through, that all adore
Mhm.
him or whatever. But he has been on record saying that he knows that he hasn't experienced true love. And so if that's what you want, then go for it. Go, treat girls that way, talk to them that way, become super alpha, king dick, and just rip it, whatever, like if that's what you want, truly,
Yeah.
bear in mind the fruits that come with it, which is you don't get to connect with somebody on a super deep emotional level. You don't get to have unconditional love from someone who's truly trying their best to be that person for you. You don't get to share super private, childish moments with somebody who just loves you. No matter what you're doing, no matter if you're making money or not. If you don't care about not experiencing those things, then go for it. Treat women however you feel like they need to be in order for you to live that type of life, because that's what you're going to get. So for me, I want a deep relationship. I want what my parents had and what my grandparents had. I want something that is going to last a long time. Um, I want to commit. I want what the Bible says is possible for a man and a woman. And I want to experience there's a level of sacrifice that every man and woman, but every man makes when they commit to someone in monogamy, is that you're not going to be with anybody else. And that discipline, uh, I feel like is important for a man. These are my values. These are my beliefs,
Yeah, I love how you're phrasing this. This is
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So it really just boils down to, what is it that you want for your own life? The relationship that I have with my girlfriend is um, huge line of communication. We are constantly childish and fun and very lighthearted. We live with each other. We have for over 3 years. I do share everything with her. I, you know, I don't burden her with stress, um, because I do feel like men should take on the weight of that. And if you're going to take a woman into if you're gonna have a woman in your apartment, and you're gonna build a life with this person, like, it's in my belief that you should take care of that person to the best of your
Mhm.
ability. And taking care of someone involves bearing the weight of stressful situations sometimes without putting it on them. A lot of relationships now are like equal relationships where they bear the weight of things equally. I don't believe that a woman, the type of woman that I want, wants that. They want
Yeah.
to not have to feel stressed, and about the bill that's due next month, and I'm like a little short on sales, and like she doesn't need to be stressing out about um, that type of stuff. And I we also respect each other, so I think that because of the level of respect that I show her, um, she returns that. And maybe that's just who she is and the type of person that I found. There are women out there that will take advantage of that. Not all women are dainty saints that just will accept a vulnerable man. Some women are killers, and they will
Yeah.
they'll tear you the fuck up. They'll take advantage of you. They'll take your money. And same goes for men, So I think it really it you need to be intentional. You need to ask yourself the right questions before you get into these relationships with people, and ask yourself who it is that you want, the type of woman, the type of person that you want. Um, I was really clear about the type of girl that I wanted before I met Skylar, and then I met her. Um, So I have there. I can for sure dig up a journal entry where I describe my ideal girl, and I might as well be describing Skylar. So
Wow.
it's something that when it came into my life, I knew what it was because I had been looking for it. A lot of people aren't looking for something specifically; they're just open to whatever, and they're just
Yeah,
putting
no,
themselves
dude.
out there to the next piece of meat that hopefully takes them in. And it's like such a crappy way to look at it, dude. It's like be intentional about the type of person you want to spend your life with, and then when you meet them, you better be ready to rise to that occasion. Like she's my girlfriend is a kind of a no bullshit type of person, and like is not letting guys hit on her or riz. It's like she's very standoffish, she's very beautiful, and she's not going to let you run laps around her. She's very matter of fact and will more than likely ignore you, and make you feel like a loser. And I rose to the occasion in that moment, and I was able to impress her and get her to lean in. And it felt like everything just kind of fell into place because I knew what I wanted. We met each other, and then when I got her, I knew how I wanted to treat her because of the way that my dad had treated my mom, which is with respect, um, being the man, being impressive, taking her out, being romantic, um, kissing her often, dating her. Still, I take her on. Tonight is date night, and
Nice.
we're a little tight. It's the beginning of the month, and I had a transition with work, and so we're doing it at home today. We're just cooking a meal together. We're gonna have a little. I'm in our second room in our apartment. It's like this creative space for us, and so we're gonna do something creative together. And like we're still super interested in each other because we're intentional about it. We don't let ourselves get too comfortable and keep each other on our toes, but maintaining that respect and that love. And yeah, man, I feel like it's simple. I don't when
That's how
the
it should feel.
Yeah, man, and when the
Yeah.
manosphere and the red pill complicates it and overanalyzes it the way that they do, I'm just like, dude, this is not right. Like, there's no way that this is right. It's too complicated. It's just too much. And it should be simple. It should be easy. When you're with the right person, and
Yeah.
I think people get scared. I think that we're in an epidemic of people who fear good things. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Because
it's
like you
it's
start to
it's
feel it, and it's scary, man. Because like at any given moment, Skylar and I's relationship is not always rainbows and butterflies. It's we also we're two very passionate people, so we have our moments. Um, what ends up being important is the love that we share for each other. But I forgot where I was going with that. You just mentioned where we've had our moments of like being scared of like the fact that we could leave each other, and that
Mhm.
idea is always until you're married to someone, and even after that, you're always gonna have that like you don't want to be overly attached to someone, and you don't want to be in a position where you're going to get hurt. But my take on that is that you got to just be willing to get hurt, man. You got to just be willing
Yeah.
to take
I
it on
was
if it
Dennis
happens.
Prager touched on that a little bit. He's talking about you know, we sacrifice being hurt when we get a pet. We know the pet's gonna die before we do.
Mm.
You get a dog lasts 10 years, dog dies. What do you do next? You end up getting another dog. Like it's we aware of this and it happens, but I did want to talk about the intentions. When you're looking when you're doing really anything, it's not just a girlfriend. I prayed it last night about I'm in life insurance now, and I'm not really sure where my next step is. So I pray, throw something in my way. I'm looking, like you're saying, you have to look. You have to look. And then that's step one. Like you said, step two is jumping to it, jumping on whatever falls in your lap, doing it. Go and try and do it. No matter what happens, this, even the industry to begin with, it jumped in my lap. I said, you know what? I'm going to just do it. Did it. I like the industry where I'm at, maybe not so much, but I've like I said, I moved the needle a little bit, and that's you that level of sacrifice. You know, I've been burnt by women two times, kind of now. Um, I went overseas, she cheated on me, got divorced, all that fun stuff. So that fear of commitment, like you're saying, this could be it. If I choose someone else, I'm choosing this person. And that's a lot of pressure putting on
Yeah,
yourself.
it's a big decision. It's a lot of pressure on them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting burnt in the past. You said you kind of have, right? So how do you get over that now in this relationship? You wrote down, you took steps, you were intentional about who you want to be with. Now that you're with that person, do those thoughts, those, as they say, intrusive thoughts, do those come back and you're like, "Oh, this could happen again." And do you bring
Um,
that up to her ever?
yeah, we've talked about it. For the first year of my relationship, despite me getting exactly what I was looking for, some of the trauma from my past relationships did catch up to me, and I ended up being unfaithful to her within the first year of us dating, and it was I mean, we should have probably broken up because of how it happened, and we just were so desperately wanting to be with each other that we went through with the relationship, and we kind of had to navigate a super difficult terrain because now you're living with someone that you can't trust all the way, and that is somebody that you didn't think that they were capable of being. Um, and so that's really hard, and it was hard on me because I was super disappointed in myself, um, and I let it beat me up for a little bit to where I was like, who am I even, like I I find this girl, she's everything that I want, she's super hot, super sweet, very loyal, and I go and I do something like really dumb. um, like am I trying to self-sabotage my life? Like, what am I doing? And
Yeah.
I've never done therapy or anything. I feel like my therapy is my journal and the
Mhm.
conversations that I have, but I kind of through self-analysis figured out that a lot of it just did come from this. It was a trauma response to past experiences where I was so afraid of how good the relationship was with Skylar that I felt like I had to distance myself away from it by doing
Mhm.
the things that I did,
I'm in
um,
that position now. Yeah, dude.
as a
I'm
way to
with you.
protect myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm super grateful that she ended up, um, I say it's staying in the pocket despite the blitz. And she's incredible. She's super patient and let me essentially kind of grow into a better version of myself. And I think a big part of the reason why we stayed together was because I told her, look, I'm going to grow and I'm going to get better with or without you. And I'd love to do it with you. Because
Yeah.
I really am sorry, but I really feel like I can change and like I can turn this around. And so I think because of how, um, you know, how much
Sincere.
how sincere I was and how much I really
Mhm.
truly wanted to change. And what I felt like it wasn't necessarily me changing, it was more of me remembering who I really was because I am a hopeless romantic, like I am a dedicated, loyal, like all those
Mhm.
sayings that I share with you are true. And the way that I view my parents' relationship is true, right? And like, but I was going against my values, and I did things that were not in my character as a way to protect myself. And I feel like people do that, where they do things that are out of character as a way to deflect some emotion or to protect themselves or because they're scared of something, and it looks like self-sabotage, but it's really, you're really trying to protect your own feelings. And so, you know, you shouldn't be too hard on yourself, because, you know, sometimes we get really bad ideas in our head, and sometimes we're not perfect. Sometimes we do stupid shit, and sometimes you have to do those things in order to grow. And in this instance, that's exactly what it was, is like, I did it, and then it gave me the opportunity to like grow back into the person that I knew who I was. And now that those types of thoughts don't even cross my mind. I have my eyes set on the future with her now.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just a completely different way of looking at it. I'm not looking at it as like, who else is out there and am I making the right decision? I'm here now, you know, and it's like, how
Yeah.
now the question is, what is this going to look like for us? What are we going to do in the future? Where are we going to live? And when your thoughts change into that, you know, I feel like the whole vibe of the relationship changes as well, and the person that you're with is going to feel that. But it's an important decision. I know it's hard, you know, and you know, finding the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with can make or break you. It's
Yeah.
not it's not something to take lightly, for sure.
Yeah, and those conversations are the hardest, the easiest, or the hardest, and the ones you never want to do, but in the end, every single time I've had them with whoever I was with, I I come out both of us come out on top of the world, and our relationship gets better. But right before that, it's like, oh my God, I have to talk to her about this. Like, I don't even want to bring it up, that type of stuff. But you have to like sit down and say, look, let's talk about this real quick, just real quick, talk about it. And at the end, we'll feel good, you know. You'll end up crying, you'll end up doing whatever, but it's what happens, you know. You,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to talk about it, and you end up being the best.
yeah.
But
But yeah, I'm super grateful for the relationship and the space that she gave me to be able to become the man that I am, because that guy's always been there. Um,
mhm,
you know, I've strayed off my path multiple times, and I've made some huge mistakes. You know, like the journey that I had with these guys that I was working with was riddled with just failure and mistakes. Despite seeing monetary success and being able to work remotely, do things that we want, we built our own
mhm,
business, we had our own clients. I've had some incredible experiences. I've had really cool clients, like A-list type clients that I've got to work with personally. Um, but I made some big mistakes because I didn't put myself first, and I didn't believe in myself in the ways that I should have. I let other people's opinions dictate who I was becoming. I picked up like this red pill mindset, which clouded my
yeah,
judgment. You know, like, it's good. Like, men, I understand the red pill because it was almost necessary for the direction that we were heading in,
yeah,
um, with all of the um, you know, the demasculinization of men, and especially white straight men, who
yeah,
were just for no reason becoming evil in the eyes of society, and like it was like wrong to be that way, and like society was almost getting set up to be totally against that, you know, uh that in for men and straight men, and like the system, the way that it's built, is built to benefit the woman in a divorce and benefit the kid. And
yeah,
it's, you know, and these things are true, um, systematically, and in society. But I think what's equally as important is that, you know, because what is red pill trying to accomplish? What is the manosphere trying to accomplish? They're trying to, their original purpose was to embolden men and to remind men of their alphaness and how to be the men in their
mhm,
lives that they need to be successful, to be alpha, to be the patriarch. And those ideas are important because men were forgetting what it meant to be a man and what it meant to be strong
right,
and proud. um, but we already have a book that tells us how we need to act, and it's called you know?
Yeah, the Bible will tell you it all. Yep.
Yeah, man. And so, and again, it goes back down to like, who do you listen to? Like, you look at Royo's, the people who are behind a lot of these messages in their lives. Um, a lot of them don't have lives that we would want to lead. So why would we spend our time listening to them? Sometimes it
They
does
got
make sense.
money.
Yeah, like okay, like sometimes it does make sense to listen to mom and dad because you know what? They're still together. And that's like that's a huge accomplishment after 20, 30 years. That's freaking tough. It's not easy.
Mhm.
And so yeah, sometimes it does make sense to listen to mom and dad because do they not have what you want? Look at your life, and that's not the case for everyone. And I think that's why the red pill movement was so crucial, is because a lot of people didn't have men in their lives. They didn't have good fathers in their lives. They didn't have someone to tell them how to act and how to be strong and how to not be so swept up by women. Because I feel like a lot of modern men were just getting totally swept up by a woman's ability to seduce them, and they were forgetting who they were in the process. And
Yep.
so these concepts are important, but like it's a pendulum, right? And like no extreme is ever going to be the right answer. The right answer is always somewhere in the middle for you. And I feel like it's important to take the pieces that make sense and integrate them where they do. But following any one path or one way of thinking, I never do think that's a good idea for true fulfillment, for living a true life. Um, you got to take the pieces and add them on in a way that makes sense for you, that complement your character, that complement the person that you're trying to be, which requires you to be self-aware and requires you to know who you are. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost, and why people get swept up in movements is because they don't know who they are or what they want. So they let somebody else tell them. And when, for the last 2 decades, we've been getting fed concepts that are so anti man and anti masculinity. When you have something and the pendulum swings the other way that is totally against all of that stuff, you're going to be attracted to it because it's like, man, I haven't seen concepts like this, and like this makes
Yeah, I
sense.
could be
Man,
different. Yeah.
yeah, and this is different, and this is so against the grain, and like we're built to love stuff like that. So I don't think it's all bad. I just think you got to pick the pieces that make sense for you, and you got to be self-aware and be true to who you are. And if you're clear about who you are, then you should be able to pick the pieces that make the most sense out of you from movements like that. And then on the other end of the spectrum with feminism, like there are things that I view women and respect women in ways that would not have been possible had it not been for feminism. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that because I love my sisters, and the way that they were getting treated 50 years ago was kind of shit, and it's like I don't really agree with that, and I like a more equal playing field for women to be able to navigate through life the way that they want to. I believe in a nuclear family. I believe in being able to provide a life so that my woman doesn't have to work if she doesn't need to, that she can be creative and free in all the ways that she wants to be. That's the type of life that I want for my family, but I don't expect that out of everyone. And, I think that's where movements are born out of people like expecting other people to live like the way that they do because they feel like it's the best way to live.
Yeah, dude, that's what
Yeah,
I wanted to say is like the way you phrase really everything when I go back and listen to this, the way you phrase it all isn't that way. It's not you should do this because nuclear family is the best option. And look at the statistics. It's the best way you could go about it. It's no, this is what I want and this is why I want it. And even writing down, being intentional about who you want to be with, Skylar, writing down, I want this, I want this. That's step one.
exactly.
That's and writing it down, I think is crucial. You
It's like
I got
magic.
50.
It's
Yeah,
like
I got 50 things in my head that I want,
yeah,
you know, but I got nothing that tells me, no, this is what you said last week. You want this. And then
yeah,
I could clear that out of my brain. That's the best part about it to me is like you're saying, you have a way to offload all of this all the people coming to you, all their feelings. You have a way to offload it. That's the best part about it. You write it down and it's gone. The sign. I mean, if you want to be scientific, there is science behind writing
There
it down
is
with a pen, right?
100%. I was just
And
about to
blue
say
pen.
that.
If
Yeah,
anybody,
blue pen.
it's a blue pen. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
If
you know.
anybody
Okay, we
wants,
read the same study.
yeah, yeah, it's incredible, man. No, if you want to jump into some movies here real quick, and while we do that, we got a couple people watching. If they want to throw a comment in or something, a question or whatever, we could cover it.
Dude,
But you
have you
got a
seen The Outpost?
is that I think I watched that in Iraq. Is that the
Did you?
Iraq movie?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's
Based on a
pretty
true
much like the
story.
compound I was in too. Not the same one. That's pretty much
Really?
how like yeah, valleys like
I,
we were in the valley.
I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you because I saw that movie recently, and since I was talking to someone who was deployed, I wanted to ask like the validity of that movie and how it was presented. Like, I don't, did you? I mean, did you see combat?
No, no.
Okay.
I was yeah, I did helicopter engines. So I
Okay.
worked on the helicopter engines, but I did it for special forces. So I was like when I was in Afghanistan it was for SEAL team. When it was in Iraq it
Wow.
was for Delta Force. Yeah. Yeah, and there's some picture around floating around with me in my like fucking Jordans with SEAL Team 6 and everyone while
Oh
they're ready. They're
shit,
like ready to go out and I'm just in
dude,
like
that's sick.
you know, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, so I didn't get to see combat. I'm fortunate I didn't. When you're 19, we talk about this a lot. I have a video I might throw in the description here. It's veterans that who went overseas and came back. And at 19, that's like the coolest thing you think of is like, dude, I'm going to be a combat veteran. Let me go
Yeah.
overseas.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
my recruiter let me, I would have been a combat engineer where I'm like building bridges and shit for tanks in the middle of the battlefield.
Holy shit.
But he was like, dude, you're way too smart for this. Like, you look at your score, go
Yeah.
do something with helicopters. And so I did. But yeah, that's the movie from what I understand, that is pretty similar.
Yeah.
Now, but like Black Hawk Down,
Love that
that
movie.
that yeah, those were the helicopters, and it says at the beginning
Yeah.
that's the unit I was in. So those were the helicopters that I worked on. Lone Survivor as well. And actually, that's what I wanted to get into. I've been reffing hockey. That's my part-time gig now.
Cool.
And my partner yesterday, out of nowhere, because I use my old army bag. It's free, so I use it for all my equipment. And he asked me where I got it from, so I told him what I did in the army. And he was a commander for about 20 years in the army under the same like in the position that would have commanded me. So we got to talking about it and he was
Oh
saying how
shit.
he was sitting in the operations room watching the actual lone survivor video like live, the whole
Oh my
operation live. And he knows
god.
a couple of those people and that was the movie I was going to bring up. Not Lone Survivor, but let me see. I wrote it down.
Zero Dark 30.
No, it's Charlie Wilson's War. So he was really good buddies with Charlie Wilson, and yeah, I guess he created a movie. He's passed now, and now he's friends with the wife. Um, but yeah, this dude, it was incredible. In between periods, we got like a minute. We're doing old men's league stuff, so we got like a minute in between
Yeah.
periods.
Yeah. Yeah.
We talk about this before the game. Do a period. The next, like the intermission, he asks me, you know why you were over in Iraq in Afghanistan? And I'm like, dude, I pawned it off on Bush. I don't know too much about it, but I pawned it off on him. And he went into the history, not during the period intermission. After the game, it was like midnight. We stayed there for about 20 minutes talking about all this from 1970, 80, 90, 2000, and how we're still there now. He's like, dude, you're there because Colin Powell. And he was telling me how Colin Powell was pushed up the ranks and the general he was working alongside with, not Colin Powell, the ref, he's working alongside the general who was on the ground, best general that everybody's seen overseas in the desert field. And he tried to send back a conditional ceasefire or unconditional ceasefire. And Colin Powell kicked it out and said no. And now we're still over there. Yeah.
No
So
shit. Dude.
Charlie Wilson's War. Yeah, I'll be watching it today later on. But yeah, do you have like a what's like your one movie?
I love American Gangster with Denzel Washington.
Oh,
Just the way he moves, and he ends up getting caught at the end, but he's love that movie. He goes so hard. His character in there is just like big balls. But he comes
Yeah.
from but he comes from nothing and kind of like built this empire around just like making like crucial decisions, being strategic, but also hustling and being out on the street. And like, you know, it's follows the type of American dream that the typical person has. It's just for him, he was a gangster, so it's sick,
Dude,
and it's
I watched
based on a
Get
true
Rich or
story.
Die Trying. That's 50
Yeah, yeah,
Cent's
yeah.
movie.
That's a good one. Yeah,
Similar one. Yeah,
yeah.
if you're looking for like a realistic military one, a lot of veterans say the same thing. It's Jarhead.
Jarhead. Okay,
Jarhead.
that's like
And
one movie I haven't watched. I'm watching Band of Brothers right now.
okay, yeah. There's another one that I watched, another series like that. Maybe The Pacific, something like that. Yeah, The Pacific. But Jarhead, nobody wants to watch it, dude. It's because it's boring, and that's what it's like over there. I was over there. It's like, dude, I woke up. I was so bored there. I woke up, hit the gym, or woke up, check if I have any work. There's no work. All right, go hit the gym. Now I got 14 more hours to do
Jeez.
something.
Yeah.
Dude, I was playing RuneScape over there. Old school
Really?
RuneScape. I was killing it in RuneScape. Me and my roommate.
Dude, I
RuneScape.
love RuneScape.
Yeah, no,
Oh
RuneScape
God, man.
made me the man I am today.
For real, man. I went in on some RuneScape. 24 Cadillac. He 24 Cadillac was like, I mean, I got him early on RuneScape, so I had a bunch of different accounts that I built intentionally for like I had a skiller. I
Yeah.
had like someone who like I would kill people in the wilderness with, so he like had really high mage but low defense, so it
Yeah,
would keep my
yeah.
total level down, and I would just murk other level 40. Dude, yeah. I had a guy that was like just fishing crab and cutting down like the yew trees, and man, I had so much fun on that game. I was a
RuneScape.
member for a while for sure.
Oh yeah, dude. When I that's what we did overseas. Me and my roommate was we were doing Callisto together.
So it's
The boss out in the wilderness. It's the only
yeah,
like duo boss we could do, and we're just chilling there. We had Suits, the series on. It's boring, man. Overseas is really boring. There'll be a couple pickups. That's why I like going to Afghanistan, because I knew I was taking part in a mission.
for sure.
Sometimes you don't see that, but when I was in Afghanistan, I'm supporting the SEAL team, and they're coming back with a dude every day, every other day,
Wow.
constantly when we first moved there. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I have my movie, damn it, my movie notebook in the other room.
Yeah, I like the Patriot. By the way, I got a meeting here in about 10 minutes. So I think I'll probably have to log off here in the next 3 to 5. It's been such a
Yeah,
pleasure, but I love the Patriot, Mel Gibson, Braveheart, Mel Gibson.
Braveheart. Yeah, that's okay. Bingo, you just said it. That's what needed to go get my book for. That's the movie. I watched it 2 weeks ago, something. I love that movie,
It's
dude.
so good,
Oh
man.
my god, it's so
Bring
good.
it on.
I just watched Ford vs Ferrari.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was a good one.
I love
Who's in
that
that
one.
again? Who's in that one again?
Dude, it's Matt Damon,
Matt
Christian
Damon.
Bale,
Yeah,
John Bernthal.
that's
Like
actually
3
who
of
I'm
my
named
top
after.
2.
Is Christian Bale.
Is it?
Yeah, it's my first name.
Wow, hell
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on. This every episode I always say it blows me out the water. I don't expect much. My expectations are low. I never did a solo one. You helped me out a lot. You were great. Thanks for sharing your story. Anybody listening, retweet all that good stuff, comment, subscribe. Let's help some more people. And man, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, man. I just want to give you a shout out too, bro. What you're doing is incredible. I wish I had the balls to do this when I was your age. I'm turning 29 next month, so I'm not too much older, but you're doing something incredibly powerful. You're going to look back on what you did and be super proud, and you should be, because you're bringing people together. You're making something. You're having really important conversations. I went back and I listened to a bunch of your episodes, and I'm just really impressed by the conversations you're having with people. I'm sure you don't know how many people you're helping. I'm sure you have no idea.
No
Yeah.
idea.
And
No idea.
maybe one day that'll come into fruition, and you'll be paid because of that. But until then, bro, just Keep doing what you're doing. I absolutely love the mission and what you're doing. I know that it's helping people. It helped me. So at the very least, you know that you helped me, and I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, thank you for real, man. And that feels good to hear, man. You don't know how much I needed to hear that, dude. So I appreciate it. Proud of where you come, man. Humble beginnings, still humble, as you would say. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, man. Thank you.
Thanks. Massive respect, Trevor. Thanks, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.